Good evening, everyone, and hello once again to the Grind and Grow show, the platform with the show where real business owners share the grind behind the growth. No fake stories, no overnight wins, just honest lessons, hard truths, and the methods that actually work. So if you're building something from the ground up, you in the right place. I am joined today by a very esteemed guest. I am honored today by interviewing this man that you see on your screen. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to the Grandmaster. If you don't know who this is, the CV is very long. It will probably take an hour to get through the CV, but I'm going to try to give him a chance to introduce himself. Dion, good evening, Mr. Ready D. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on your platform.
Thank you, sir, for making the time, for coming on to the platform. D, just for those that don't know, who is this man that I see on my screen?
Sure, many people know me for the work that I do, within hip hop culture and as a DJ. Some people know me for the music production work that I've done. So I'm at the point in my life now where I'm wearing many hats, and I think I've been blessed to fill so many different spaces all the way through to consulting, stage managing, production managing. Also the acting CEO of a nonprofit organization, GCAP as well. I've been one of the founder members of a very popular hip hop group from back in the day, POC or Prophets of the City. And I've also fulfilled that role in BVK, which is Brasa van die Kaap, another group that had done really, really well in our country and also abroad. And the Beat Bangers, also we have a Beat Bangers DJ Academy as well. Now, let me see what else is there. Gee, the drifting side of things, the things with cars. So I've done quite a bit of that as well. I've also done some stunt driving into Hollywood productions, big name productions. And then I worked on television as well as a DJ at first. And then I had two of my own shows on TV as well. And these
Mm-hmm.
days, in radio. So I've been in radio going in for 17 years right now.
17
That
years. I
that's
remember when
about
you
what I
started.
remember right now. And of course, I got my footing within hip hop culture through DJing, breakdancing, or b-boying, graffiti art, emceeing, rapping, and all these things. Yeah.
It's quite a portfolio. So I'm gonna give my age away now. But I remember going to a school event at Plumstead High because I'm from the southern suburbs in Cape Town, right? I went to
Okay.
Heathfield High.
Cool.
So
Okay.
I remember going to one of the events at Plumstead High and I saw this DJ on the stage and the guy took out a baseball, not a baseball, a basketball, and there was two turntables, and he started scratching with a basketball on the turntables. And this is just a memory that stuck by me, you know. But Adi, I've seen you at a lot of events. I've seen you on social media. We've been following you for years. I think you're one of the pioneers of the industry. So respect to you, my man, and thank you for joining once again. And Dion,
Thank you.
I'm gonna go on to another component of what you do in your craft, right? Because this is the grind and the grow show. We're gonna talk about the things that people don't often see, the things that happen in the back end, you know, the grind, as we put it here on the show, and you know what people go through. So I'm gonna ask a bit of questions about that, and I think you know we're gonna probably try to inspire and motivate some people by going through these questions. So my first question, and we're gonna go through the grind, the early hustle, and the foundation of what you do. Ek weet dit is nog 'n baie jare terug, but if you can remember. Um, when you started there was no blueprint for making money in SA hip hop, right? So how did you create income before the industry even existed?
I would say one of my first official forms of income was selling cool drink bottles and wine bottles and beer bottles. That was the first official form of income for me back in the day. Because, when we started out, I grew up with a single parent, which was my mom. Going back to around about 1980, 81 right now, just to give your viewers some context as well. So we were among the last families out of District 6 when we started to kind of get settled in Mitchell's Plain. It was a barren, foreign land for us. My mother, unfortunately, had to wake up at 4 in the morning to walk to Mitchell's Plain Town Center from Lentegeur in the early hours of the morning to catch a bus. Because that time the transport system and everything wasn't really fully functional and developed at that stage. So you could only get a bus at certain points. There wasn't, a taxi and a road system that we have today. So
Mm-hmm.
things work slightly differently. So as a young boy growing up and you're left to your own devices, you, like we say in Cape Town, you're skitting with all the wrong brasse, you're getting into all the wrong things, you're being exposed to, just a completely different world. So you do have your dreams and aspirations, but there's no money. Your mom's not at home and you're being influenced left, right, and center from all these other characters around you. So of course, your perception of life and your reality have a little bit of a, I would say, more skewed sort of perspective, if we can put it on that. And
Mm-hmm.
while in my high school days, a very close family friend was actually working as these guys that head up these construction projects. And I used to bunk school a lot to go and work on the construction with him as well. So that was the other form of income. And it's interesting we're having this discussion because we are busy doing some building renovations at home. And there's a young boy that's working here. And I told the guy that's doing the construction work at the house, that was my job when I was at school. I was a Daga boy. I used to do exactly what that boy is doing over there. So, that was some of the early jobs, being a Daga boy. I was also a
Mm-hmm.
trolley boy one day at one stage in my life at Pick and Pay in Kenilworth Center down here in Cape Town City in the 80s. That was one of my jobs as well. And then also worked on the council back in the day, CCC Samana. I was
Mm-hmm.
there. The toilet cleaner. I used to clean the grounds. And then I had to multitask as a lifesaver at one stage as well at Weinberg Parts. And then I had to contend with all the scollies jumping over the fence to get into the butts for Nick. So we had to do all the little tasks, to get by as well. So that was some of I would say my early days.
I mean, it's funny how life makes a full circle. Just when you mention about the construction, so you see this reflection of yourself often in times of through stages of life. But my man, it's been a grind, if I can put it that way. Very fitting to the show.
Yeah, it's been a hard one. The hardest one was being a trolley boy, at Pick and Pay in Casey. Our line manager wasn't a very friendly guy, but also just to give you some context around that. So you're at school on a Friday, you got to get there very early. You got to jump straight in and start pushing and collecting trolleys till the store closes. And then you got to mop floors, clean the aisles and all of that stuff and, do whatever needs to be done. Then we got to jump on the bus. And this is around about 12 o'clock at night. And then the bus don't drop us off at home. The bus drops you off in Mitchell's Plain Town Center. Then we gotta run from the town center all the way into Lentegeur, and you gotta navigate through and past gangs and go through gang territory to get to your place. And then you gotta be up at 5 in the morning again to catch that same bus to take you back. And then that was practically the cycle.
Man, tough. The grind to the true story of the grind, my man. And so skipping a few years, DJing. I mean, this is your craft, right? SA hip hop is what you're known for. When did your first paid gig? What did that teach you about business per se?
Well, my first paid gig came very, very late in my career, I would say. Um, so starting off, we used to take the train from Lentegeur to Cape Town. I just want to, this is kind of in the midst of DJing and dancing and
Mm-hmm.
doing, all
Mm-hmm.
these hip hop things. So even that was a grind as well. So for most of the time, we used to be those kids that used to jump on the trains and practically, like we say, steal train for free because it wasn't money. So we had to find ways and we had to become very, very innovative in terms of how we are not going to get caught. There were times that we would pay, but for most of the times, no, they still train because there just wasn't money. And we still train when we did our gigs as well. As a breakdance crew, we had to walk from our house, to the clubs in Mitchell's Plain or wherever. We had to walk and ask family members and friends to take us from point A to B and kind of depend on your parents, to cover the bill for the fuel cost, that stuff. So when the DJing started, the early days of the DJing was the same as well. We used to pack our backpacks full of records. Sometimes you had a milk crate full of records, so you got to bear in mind the weight that you're carrying as a young boy at that age. And always the gangs are there. They're on the trains. They're all around you. You need to protect yourself. You need to protect your vinyl, your little headphone sets and all these things. So that was always the challenge and the stress point, I would say. But you're growing up in Lentegeur, you're growing up in that type of environment. So you have to be street smart. You know already what to look out for to operate in these spaces. So we ended up becoming resident DJs at a very, very popular space in the city center. And let's say if I made 20 Rand, that was a lot.
Wow.
If I made bucks, it was a lot. And the first payment probably came after 4 or 5 years of being resident at this space. So every single week you had to find your way there. Kind of within the timeline, I won my first South African DJ championship title, and I bought myself a Ford Cortina 30S. So that $20 didn't even cover the fuel,
Yeah.
but you got the $20 and as klar, that all that
Yeah.
money went. Thank So you still have to cover yourself in that way. It's wear and tear on your car. You have to find money to pay for your vinyls as well, because like I said, I couldn't always depend on my mom. It was hard times back then. But you have to find ways to make that money on the construction sites and by selling your wine and your beer bottles and your cool drink bottles as well. And that also covered, for the latest trends of sneakers and all of that stuff that we used to wear back in the day.
Yeah, you had to yak also, it was
Hey, I'm
part of
telling
the
you, hip hop would press on you om te look gevaarlijk.
amazing. I mean that's it. That is hectic. So D, what was your turning point from a talented DJ to a professional brand?
The one thing that really opened up my eyes, I just want to backtrack once again, back to our breakdancing days. Three of us out of our breakdancing crew were selected to be a part of a theater production called Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. So we were the Ishmaelites in this theater production. And that was actually the first time in my life that I signed a contract because now we were on tour. We were performing in different venues around Cape Town City. Then we found ourselves in the Opera House in Port Elizabeth. And then that production took us to Pretoria as well. That's the first time I ever signed a contract of 100 Rand in my life. And I could buy myself a decent mixer from that 100 Rand, signed that contract. And that was a national tour. And, being a part of these productions, if we're speaking about grind, the rehearsals that it takes, the amount of energy and commitment that it takes, and I think those are all the components that help to shift my focus, from the negative people that had influence on
Hmm.
me. We are
Yeah.
spending so much time on a craft. If you wanted to perfect a dance move, you wanted to figure out how to do a windmill into a backspin, into a headspin, that was like total commitment. If you wanted to find out how to create the mix or to get the mix right, or you're chasing the latest song or whatever that may be, it costed a lot of time and commitment, and that kind of helped to shift, uh, who I was as a young kid, kind of growing into this person that still didn't know what the world was gonna throw at him. And my commitment, or at least my ambition and my dream, was always to share, what I was doing with as many people as I possibly could. And I think I still carry that with me today, because I'm just thinking, if we look at the music and the culture, there was nothing that looked like it at that time, because we were the first generation of hip hop practitioners in our country. So the way we played music, the way we walked, the way we talked, there was nothing like it. There was no internet. We didn't have TikTok. We didn't have all these different platforms where people can just latch onto it, especially young people. If you wanted to see something, there's somebody that will be demonstrating something, or you could go onto YouTube and get tutorials. So we had to figure everything out for ourselves, everything right through from the business components. Like you mentioned earlier on, there was no rule book, there was no handbook, nobody was there to guide us. So
Mm.
you learn as you go along. And the stumbling blocks during that time was it was all over the place. So nothing was smooth sailing, but you're driven by a passion. You're driven by this fire, because every time you land something within the music, the DJing, the mix, the dance, it creates so much excitement. And that was the fuel that just kept you committed to the cause.
100%. Amazing. And tell me, D, like when did you realize that your name itself had value?
I started to realize that my name added value when I entered the my I'm just trying to think if it's the first one or the second one. I think it was the first DJ competition that I entered. It's a national championship. So I think I was the youngest. I was a kid amongst the greats in our country. So if you're throwing around names like DJ Faisal, Superfly, DJ Solly, those were like iconic DJs. So here come this kid from a bedroom in Lentegem, Mitchell's Plain, with one wooden turntable. And this kid starts taking everybody out in DJ competitions. Your name gets out. And
Yeah,
then I
yeah,
remember entering at Club Space Odyssey, because that was the, I would say, the regional final to get you into the actual finals. Unfortunately, they placed me in third position in Space Odyssey, which means that I couldn't go to the national final. And then the name was out there that there's this kid who's got this talent, and this kid that's doing crazy things on turntables. And
yes,
then Club Fame, another club that I didn't even know of, all the way out in Elsies River. The owners from that club said, no, we're going to take this righty. We're going to sponsor him his ticket to Joburg, and he's going to compete in Joburg. And they didn't expect me to represent them as a club. They saw the potential young kid, and they said, no, you're going to represent Cape Town. So they sent me to go and represent Cape Town. So that was like the point that I was like, holy Lord, maybe I mean something to somebody.
yeah,
And
yeah,
those also some factors that kept me committed. So after winning the first championship and the second championship, South African championship, that was like back to back, year one, year two. And they wouldn't allow me to enter year three in the South African DMC championships. And then that also made me realize, oh, flip, I'm actually a threat to so many people.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
with the support of your friends and your family and everybody that's close to you, you're getting that emotional support, they're hyping you up, and they're letting you know, guy, you're onto something over here. So your name starts to get out, into the field. And now the phone starts ringing, come gig here, come gig there. This club wants you to play. That club wants you to play. So yeah, that was kind of I would say the beginning days. And then I actually ended up having a residency up in Joburg through this journey
man.
at that point in time. Yeah.
That is a great story. And you mentioned it before, right? You said you spoke about, how to protect yourself, I mean, being street smart, etc. But in the specific industry, right? How did you protect your brand where you had to avoid exploitation of creativity, just as well?
Well, I must be upfront with you. I was exploited on many occasions, because once again, like we say, you're operating and you're functioning on passion. not
Mm-hmm.
realizing that you're off. You know, the term brand came, gee, was maybe like 20 years into me already being a brand. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that I was a brand, and I didn't have confidence in me being a brand, because whenever people speak about brands, it's either clothing brands, or it was maybe something like a Coca-Cola, or, you know, one the big companies, and you're like, how do I actually associate myself with that? You know, that's a world that I don't understand. And you want to tell me that DJ Ready D is a brand? That confused the hell out of me. And in the music side of things, when it came to music production, licensing your music, publishing your music, and all of those things came very, very late as well, because we didn't receive that education. And also at the time, information wasn't available as well. But we just carried on, you know, with that fire and with that passion, and that realization came very, very late. I actually had to walk away at, I would say, the pinnacle of my career. I had to make a decision to walk away from what I've been a part of building. And when I say walk away, you're walking away from a lot. You're walking away
Yeah.
from one of the big legacy components built within the music industry, because I've realized that I've been exploited, you know, and
Mm,
I
yeah.
uncovered fraud and all these things, because people start holding you accountable. I didn't know that the people working with me and for me behind the scenes, they were pulling, you know, all the shady moves. So now
Yeah.
you know, the phone starts ringing, people start questioning you, and you're like going, oh gosh, I didn't even know. You know, I was booked in
Yeah.
4 cities at the same time. So how can I be in 4 places at the same time? So you get booked to be in all these different cities. So there was a person responsible for doing that. He coined the money from the other 3 gigs, and
Yeah.
I only got paid for one. And people were wondering, now, why isn't this guy rocking up to the gigs? And I wasn't aware of that, because you're putting all your trust in different people. And right then I had to make the very, very hard decision and walk away from all of that. That's just some of the factors. There was a whole lot of other
Yeah.
things that happened.
Yeah.
And I had to practically walk away and build myself from the ground up again. And then that is when my wife stepped in with like zero experience of being an artist manager. And right up until today, she's still my artist manager. And through that, you know, that got me to the next stage of my career and where I needed to be as well, because now you had somebody that you could trust in your corner. And she practically fulfilled that role, having to depend on so much advice from so many different people to help keep this guy Ready D going, because now I'm at the peak of my career. I'm all over the place. I'm all over the world. I'm all over the country, but there isn't a professional, how do you say, base. There isn't a professional entity that's managing him no more. So it was
100%.
trying to build ourselves again from that point.
And it's very ironic that you say that, because in our first episode I interviewed a Cape Town comedian, very good friend of mine, Carl Weber, and I asked him in terms of management, and he told me the exact same thing. He said the best person to manage you would be your spouse, because that is the only person that you can trust fully. And I think it's very ironic that you just said the same thing. That's amazing.
Now, definitely, you know, because you have a shared interest. Number one, let's take the spousal components out of the equation and the love components out of the equation. Take all of that out. There's already a different relationship formed as well. So I just want to use myself as an example as well. Thankfully,
Hmm.
the woman I married, we grew up together and we grew up in the culture as well. So she's seen me develop and she's seen me walk, you know, all these different sort of paths through my life as well. So she's been by my side through all that time. And for her to step in, you know, just to make that decision that I'm gonna step in now and try and help this guy, you know, um, to, to make sure that how do you say, his passion is still being fed, and he's
Yeah.
still being able to move forward as this musician, this DJ, this personality in our country. if I look at it from her perspective, I think it's definitely something to be celebrated and admired. And then we bring
100%.
all the powerful components back into the equation again. And, I'm touring. I'm very, very seldom at home. So she's running the household. She's practically running the family and she's taking care of our kids as well. So there was a lot at play, when it comes to those things as well. Through all of that, here we stand today.
100%. That's amazing. And tell me, D, like, what are young creatives doing wrong when it comes to their personal branding? What advice or what would you? What's your opinion on this? Where do things go wrong for guys coming up and we see social media videos and YouTubers, etc. What do you think they're doing wrong when it comes to their personal branding?
I think one of the big things that I see on social media is, number one, people undervalue themselves, and the artist thinks that he or she can be the manager as well, and they can be the business directors as well. Being an artist, if you see yourself as that, you're practically in it 24/7. Even when you're sleeping, you're thinking about your art. You wake up in the morning, it's your art. So the business components doesn't really, how do you say, take first preference, and you need a very, very strong business element to make sure that it feeds the art and it keeps the artist creating and it keeps the artist fed.
Got you.
So the artists usually don't see things or see things from a business perspective, and especially when it comes to negotiating as well, and when it comes to the contracts and having business discussions. The artist is passionate. We just want to be in the field. We want to be on a platform. So we'll just go there for spec and bunches or to do this thing for free, as we'll do it for next to nothing. I mean, it's okay, just give me
Yeah.
some water. Some people are happy to eat all night for a dope and to get their friends on the guest list. Well, and I'm saying this with the greatest of respect, but it happens. And that mentality puts so much money in the pockets of the promoters, the club owners, the commercial brands, and all these things, in these spaces. So yeah, you're the one that's practically creating the vibe, the energy. You are making the space. You're just as important as the venue selling alcohol or food or whatever the case may be. You are a part
Hmm.
of that whole side. So the one thing that really created or disrupted our industry is a lot of these young DJs and artists coming in that's kind of just offering their services for practically next to nothing. That created a huge, I would say, influx and oversaturation of the industry. And at the end of the day, if you're a young lady and you just walking in with all the hits on a memory stick, um, and you're not going to charge a lot, that's practically what's happened. So a lot of the professional DJs that understand what it means to build a night or to build your venue and your business, they've been moved out of the equation, while all these influx of young people are coming in that doesn't understand the business component around that. And it's damaging for every along the line, including the business as well, including the promoters as well. Because, I work on both ends of this, of the spectrum. So I understand how things work from all angles. And I think that is kind of one of the things that's extremely damaging, when people don't value professionals, and you as a young person, you're just rushing through the process to get in, and you want this instant gratification because now you're on a stage, you're in a platform, you're
Hmm.
in a venue. And what that means to you is you can then take your selfies, post the content, and you're doing it for your likes. But when it comes to the business component, everything kind of falls flat or just doesn't exist.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a very, very valid point that you make there. And speaking about the business side, what revenue streams should DJs and artists be thinking about today?
I think we're living in very interesting times, though. Uh, Many people know me for starting out my commercial radio DJ journey inside of Good Up FM.
Hmm.
So when I looked at Good Up I would say probably about 70 to 80% of the staff were all DJs or are DJs as well. So DJs take up a whole lot of different positions within the station, apart from being an on-air presenter. The music compilers, the station managers, they go into marketing in all these different places. And these days, you can create opportunities for yourself because now you know you can actually build an online business and you can build all these different platforms through everything that you have at your fingertips through the social media, if you want to call it sort of ecosystems as well. And I see that
Hmm.
taking place. A lot of people that's taking advantage of that now, and there's more people becoming aware of that. So in terms of your income streams, there's so many different avenues that you can venture into. But I think the most important thing is you have to kind of build a foundation for yourself. Don't rush to be the biggest name because you'll get to a certain point if you're lucky, but because you lack all the basics and you lack an understanding and there isn't a maturity to come into thinking about that, you could easily fall off very, very quickly. So you're looking at film, you're looking at TV, you're looking at radio. I'm also just using myself as examples as well. A lot of
Yeah.
artists and DJs start going into the world of remixing and producing their own music. So there's opportunities there as well. You can find yourself on
Hmm.
festivals, find yourself on the international circuits these days as well. So there's so many different places. Podcasting, you can kind of plug yourself into the podcasting ecosystem as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to look at it. There's marketing of events as well. They're becoming influencers that are getting
Yeah.
paid decent these days as well. You can go into script writing, producing movies for soundtracks. So there's a whole lot of different areas that you can play in.
Percent. Got you. Got you. And speaking about that, how do you move from earning gig to gig income to building real estate? I know you touched on it now. For you, what would that be? To building real assets.
Sure, that's a very tough one, I would say, in my situation. Because as I've mentioned, we're from the generation where things landed, or should I say, the information landed very, very late. Um, I think there was some kind of let's say, a subconscious component that made us bought things that became assets
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
being that we are investing in ourselves, like our own DJ equipment, our own gear. When it comes to the cars, I bought a whole lot of drift cars out of passion, but at the end of the day, it became assets because we could then use it to generate income out of that as well. Because now we started getting booked to do shows, we started ending up in movies, cars are being booked, to be in ads and all these different types of platforms as well. So then it becomes
Got you.
assets in that regard. The same with our DJ equipment as well. It afforded
Hmm.
us the opportunity to get out of a Wendy house and then to go into brick and mortar spaces to set up a DJ academy as well. And all of those components helped us to build a non-profit organization. And that's kind of setting us at the point again where we're building from the ground up as well. So
Yeah.
setting that up also, I've come to realize it's the exact same process as setting up a business. It needs
Hundred
the same,
percent.
you need the same
And
teams, you need the same understanding. Yeah. So that's where we're at the moment.
and you make a very interesting point and a very I wanna maybe stay a bit there, but and I can see this just through our conversation. There's a giving back element that you always coming back to. You know what I mean? Because of the grind, you there's some sort of humbleness that you have about you where the giving back is never excluded from the journey, which is so amazing.
I think the giving back component, I think that's built in. It's how we were raised. I would say it comes from there, practically the type of household that you were brought up in, the community, the friends, the families, members, the culture that we grew up in as well. So I think that kind of planted the seeds for that. And then hip hop culture, kind of reminds you of that, and it comes with that built into hip hop culture as well. Because when you speak about hip hop, people think it's just rap, you know,
Yeah,
it's Tupac,
yeah.
Snoop, and how these days Sapela rap on the Cape Flats and all this. So it's there's like a very um, negative perception or connotation put on the on the culture. But when I say the culture, we're speaking about the five elements. It's breaking or break dancing. It is the DJing component. It's the rapping component or the MCing, the graffiti art, and then of course knowledge of self component. So I think I still carry that pretty much. That's always in the forefront. And then just getting back to who we are and what we are doing these days through our organization. The organization is built on the five pillars of hip hop, and knowledge of self is the one that drives it. So when you're on this journey of acquiring knowledge and understanding of who you are, and you're trying to get an understanding of your environment and what's taking place, then I think the giving back components, all of that falls into place just by default as well. So the work that we've done with the city, we've done so many different tours, such as the vote education tour. It was the first time South Africa was granted the opportunity to vote. We were going into our democracy. We were on
Mm-hmm.
board doing outside tours, the HIV awareness tours, the educational tours. We worked in Paulsmoor Prison with youth awaiting trial. We've worked with youth at risk in Northern Ireland. We've been in spaces where people haven't even seen a black face or a colored face, that
Mm-hmm.
type of thing. We're practically sitting in the same room with the people that led the IRA, in Northern Ireland, speaking about all this conflict type of situations. We were in the same room with the refugees that were caught up in the war in Rwanda, child soldiers, and all these things. Then you're back home again, continuing the work through Brasafani Cup and the beat bangers and all these things. So all of those things were the contributing factors, to kind of amplify and enhance the giving back component. And then the fact that you grew up in District 6, you grew up on the Cape Flats, you grew up in Mitchell's Plain, and you've seen dead bodies lying in front of your home. You had to duck and dive the bullets, you had to run from the gangs at one time in your life, but a few times in your life, you had to take a stand and fight back as well. So you grew up in this environment, so you understand it, and you understand the importance of that giving back. So we are focused on youth and we're focused on children because we understand if there's no guidance for a child, we know what's kind of waiting for that kid down the line.
Got you. Got you. That is so amazing. And so dear, I wanna go to the growth component of grind and grow, right? Growth and longevity. Did you or maybe let me ask you this way. How did you stay competitive in a digital era with low barriers to entry? Like you mentioned, anyone could have done it. Especially with this era of digital. How did you stay competitive from that perspective?
I think for me, and in my case, it was always the thought and that feeling of curiousness. It's like, what if I do this? What if I'm able to take this song and take a song that's not even related and put the two together and see what the outcomes are? And what if I'm able to do this for so many people? And then I want to see what the response is going to be, whether it's good or bad, whatever the case may be. But you're always experimenting. And when the digital platforms opened as well, I was like, holy Lord, there's another platform to kind of use what I do and to expose who I am and to experiment and to put it out in the world as well. So that's always the thing that kind of drove me. It wasn't like how do you say, it wasn't a conscious, intentional thing that, oh, I'm going to go out there and do these things for the likes and the views and whatever the case may be. Yes, I mean, that is the bonus. There is a certain desire, of course, to push the numbers these days on the social media platforms. But I was like, okay, cool. There's some people out there that is interested in what I do. And I was like, wow, this is actually really amazing because now we on Facebook. Now you're connecting with people that you've lost touch with many, many years ago, and you're able to reconnect with people, and people's going, oh, flip, you're still active. You're still doing A, B, C, D, and E. I didn't even know that you were still busy with this. Ek het gedink jy's al aan you doing other things. That type. And now you start to realize once again in our business and what we do that social media is a very, very powerful and important platform because all our clients these days, they research you on your social media platforms. And
Got
that's
you.
why I don't go on social media. I don't put drama out there. I don't try to be the world's savior. I don't try to get involved with politics and a whole lot of things because people
Mm-hmm.
already know my political stand in our journey with Prophets of the
Yeah.
City and everything that
Yeah.
we've done. And these days, you practically got to put out who you are. And the word on the block these days are authenticity as well. So for me, I don't even think it's something that I had to script or whatever. I just put out whatever I feel I want to put out into the world. But I do not want to kind of also put a stereotypical projection out there of who I am because I'm fully aware I'm a public figure and you have a responsibility towards your family, your friends, your neighborhood, and your community as well. And for me, I don't want to put the projection out there of being a stereotypical colored male out there as well. And for me, I also want to once again just share, who I am and what I do from an artistic standpoint as far as the music goes and everything that we are doing, just to give people a different perspective of who I am and what I do. And so people can actually have a sense of hope and also see, oh, wow, it's not just every single day there's people shooting guns on the Cape Flats. There's
Yeah.
somebody that comes from that environment and that life, but look what this person's able to do with his life or her life or whatever. And those are the things that really interest me these days. It's kind of investing and putting out positive narratives to shift the world's thinking of who we are as human beings.
And just following up on what you said there. So what habits kept you disciplined when no one was watching?
I would say the one thing that motivated me was the fact that I knew I needed to survive. Number one, for myself. Number two, that curiosity component that we spoke about. I was like, I'm not done yet. There's still a stuff that I need to learn. And there's still a lot out there that I want to put out into the world as well. I got a family. So, once you're in that position, everything changes. Your whole perspective on life changes as well. And the fact that you find yourself going from point A to B around your country and around the world as well, that kind of keeps you motivated because if you're in different places traveling, you also start to see yourself and you start to see your country differently. And you also start to see what you do and the value that you bring, not just to a local audience, but to a global audience. That's also, some of the things that motivates me as well.
Yeah.
And in our business and within our culture, you have to remain sharp. Your skills must be on point. That is just art. Art doesn't give you a day off or a minute off. You can ask many artists outside of what I do, whether somebody's painting or somebody's busy with poetry or somebody's creating a fashion range or whatever the case may be. As soon as you're plugged into the art environment and ecosystem, unfortunately, we don't sleep a lot either as well. So just your brain's constantly running. You're always thinking about the next thing or creating whatever the case may be. So in my case, there's always a beat playing in my head. When do I reach the perfect beat? I'm always searching for the perfect beat.
100%. And do you believe South African creatives like yourself, do you think they think big enough?
In the beginning, I must admit, I was a very small thinker. Big things happened to me. And I think that was because of my grind. That was because of my determination, my energy, and the skills I've acquired. Because I managed to um, I would say, craft myself into a standalone personality and DJ. And I'm saying this with the greatest of respect. And I know there's a lot of skilled and talented DJs that have acquired skills through the years, but I'm also matured enough to know that I am still, you know, a very unique personality within this culture.
Hmm.
So the thinking from a business standpoint didn't align with the artist, with the DJ, that with that entity. So I'm person at that point now where I've grown into thinking big because I know I deserve more. And when I'm able to acquire more, whatever that may be, whether it is monetary or whether it's opportunities, I'm at the point of maturity in my life where I know exactly what needs to be done with that because there's the track record, the proof, the essence, everything is there. The foundation is there. And in the beginning, I don't think, enough of us have thought big. And even today still, I think there's so much people with so much potential and young people that I've worked with and counted and I'm going, holy Lord, you are blessed with the it factor.
100%. Yeah,
And I'm praying over you, hope that you reach the point where you're thinking big,
big.
you're massive. And the only thing that we have to show for, I would say, within our industry on a grand commercial scale at the moment is Tyler and Black Coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's really great, that is there because it just shows everybody else it's within our industry what is possible these days. And the thing that we can capitalize on, especially young people, is the fact that the world have a huge appetite for Africa. Not just the music, but everything
Mm-hmm.
else that is African. So we need to plug ourselves into that narrative, not as South Africans or Cape Townians or whatever. And you don't have to, yes, we want to keep it local, but you
Mm-hmm.
got to remember the local markets and the local audiences when it comes to business and support in terms of you being able to buy those big assets and making the big investments. They've proven to be limited, I would say. So you got to go out there and see how you can cross borders to grow your brand and to grow your business, your company, and to see how else, you can penetrate new markets as well.
Got you. You're actually answering all the questions that I have lined up for you, but I'm going to ask you this: what
Well,
infrastructure is still missing in our music ecosystem today?
in the music ecosystem, I would say the whole business structure is missing. The whole, everything that takes to run a proper business is missing. I actually just saw something pop up on my timeline today, and I shared that with my ex manager up in Joburg because we don't see physical vinyl and we don't see physical CDs and all these things being sold off the shelves. To a certain extent, you think that these record companies are not making money, and Sony actually made 3 point odd billion in profit because they have revolutionized the way that they're running a record company. So they're not just a record company. There's so many other components that they have plugged into and invested in the social media side of things and on the online sort of components as well. And especially as far as streaming goes as well.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah,
also living in a world now where anybody and everybody can build something online as well. So we need to practically study the modules and the moves of all these mega sort of entities to see how else we can be a part of that as well as
yeah,
far as building a
yes,
business entity and also to kind of just engage and be out into the world in that form and fashion. And that's also the reason why a lot of artists, I would say, I want to use Cape Town as an example. That's why a lot of artists, super super talented artists, are not venturing outside of Cape Town city, but they are stuck here and they're complaining about there's no opportunities for us. But we don't understand how we need to package ourselves and build our talents and build what we do within a communal sort of framework and how we are able
mm-hmm.
to build that, package it, market that, and sell that to the world because the world's waiting, but we don't have the business, I would say, sense and the business awareness to be able to do that.
Got you, got you. And I know we're running out of time, but maybe two more last questions for you. What advice would you give someone, other than just what you put out there now? What advice would you give someone trying to build a creative agency like you guys did over the years?
One of the most important things is to network. It's very important. And also, look for advice and insights outside of your industry as well. For me, I was very staunch about being hip hop. I didn't want to hear nothing about anything outside of hip hop. That was my world at one stage. And very quickly, I came to realize you're actually not going to get far and you're not going to get beyond where you are right now because you're constantly doing the same thing. Every single day, same thought, the same routine, the same repertoire, the same conversations. So how can you expect a different result if you're doing the same thing over and over and over? So, I had to grow out of that and I had to start thinking about what I'm doing more professionally. And networking is a very, very, very important and it's a very, very powerful, I would say, cycle to be in as well. And be prepared to learn at all times. Even if you've made your first million, your first 10, 20 more, there's always somebody out there that's doing it bigger, better, and that's got more experience and insight. So definitely, yeah, networking is very important.
100%. And maybe just, learning never stops. This is what I hear you. I get out what you're saying now is learning doesn't stop.
Absolutely. We have a 13-year-old DJ in our ecosystem right now that's teaching us. And we can't be arrogant to say that this light day because you're a youngster, quite obvious to Ghanaians gebore nie. You can't be arrogant about it. And I think it's the same thing when it comes to business and everything else. Somebody has always got something to teach you, you know. So observe, be humble, be willing, and always be prepared to fulfill the role of a student. And when somebody asks you, and you have that information and you are having an exchange with somebody, you could potentially impact the person or change that person's life as well. So at the end of the day, don't make it about you because in order to reach a point of success, it can never be a one man or one woman show. We're working directly or indirectly within a community system as well, whether you like it or not. Because when you got people working for you, you're still building a culture of community. Because at the end of the day, you got to make sure that everybody's happy and everybody's at the same page, so that your
Got you.
business, yeah,
100%, 100%. And then maybe just to close off, as I know time is not on our side. It feels like the more we speak, the more questions I have, but I know we're gonna have to limit it. But I mean, it's been so interesting listening to some of the things that you are saying, and I hope someone out there is watching us here right now, trying to think about these things and get motivated and inspired and educated about what we're speaking about, because that's what we want to achieve here on Grind and Grow. But maybe just a closing question for you. And we call this the signature Grind and Grow question. Is talent enough, or is discipline the real superpower?
you need the two combined. Definitely, you need talent and you need the discipline because you're not going to get far if they are out there operating separately. Because when you got talent, yes, on the one end, that could be the building blocks for your brand, and that could be your exhibition component. But if you don't have the discipline to maintain it and to keep going, and the discipline to learn, and the discipline to form, how do you say, to kind of learn and also to walk within the structures of business, if that is where you wish to be, then it's going to fall flat, because those things also build your character, your personality, and people need to know that this talented person, I can trust you. He or she is going to be here on time. You are going to listen. If I am booking you or if I'm hiring you to be a part of something, you're not coming in here because you're the greatest DJ or the greatest dancer or singer, thinking that you can throw the ego around the room and everybody else on this production or within this operation over here depends on you. Because at the end of the day, it's not about you. We are all contributors to something. And I always tell young people that I work with, think about where you want to do, about where you want to be, what you want to do, and what type of legacy you wish to leave behind for yourself. Just think about that, because we're all contributing to something. Because the day that we're not on this earth no more, life carries on, music carries on, business carries on. Everything moves forward. It's just going to move with or without you. That's why I say we're all contributors. So how would you like to be remembered for your contributions that you've made wherever you are finding yourself in?
100%. Great answer, D. We're running out of time, so I would like to say again, my friend, thank you so much for joining and making the time. Just taking an hour out of your time to come speak
All
with
good.
me. I hope we made an impact on someone today. But just again, my appreciation to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining Grind and Growing and being one of our guests today. Thank you so much, sir.
No, you're most welcome. Thank you for the opportunity once again, and to your viewers as well. Please follow my pages, follow what I'm doing, because very, very soon we're going to invite everybody around us, whether it's on social media, friends, family, associates, everybody to become a part of our movement as well. And our movement, of course,
Perfect.
is to be there for our communities and our kids as well. And it's all linked to the work that we're doing through our nonprofit organization, GCAP. So you can go on there. It stands for the Great Cape Ambassadors Program. It's all over social media, and very soon we're going to allow people to become a part of the movement in order for us to be able to be more impactful when we're out there serving.
Perfect. It's 100%. So what we'll do is we'll add some of those social links to the channel description. We'll put it up on Facebook, on TikTok. You guys can follow us there, and we can learn about more about the movement and the community where we inspire, motivate, and educate. Mr. D, thank you so much. Appreciate your time, sir. It's been
Hey,
awesome talking to you. Thank
you're
you, sir.
welcome. Sure, man. Thanks so much.